Meghan Markle did not just walk into public judgment. Meghan Markle walked straight into 3 crowds that cameras could not control. And the first crack in the perfect image happened inside one of the most sacred royal moments Britain had ever staged. Meghan Markle built her public life around one very specific expectation. When the camera arrives, admiration follows. The smile appears, the chin lifts, the hand finds Harry, and the story is supposed to arrange itself around charm, sympathy, and star power. But June of 2022 did not behave like that. Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee was not an ordinary royal gathering. It was 70 years of history, service, sacrifice, and monarchy compressed into one national tribute. And the brutal detail sitting underneath the glamour was this: Queen Elizabeth was too sick to attend her own celebration. That alone should have made the room feel solemn, careful, almost untouchable. But into that atmosphere came Harry and Meghan, not blending quietly into the family arrangement, not arriving with the others, but pulling up separately in a private car, hand in hand, as if the cameras had been waiting for their own grand entrance instead of a tribute to Queen Elizabeth. The timing made everything sharper. Weeks earlier, Harry and Meghan had sat across from Oprah in torn open royal wounds in front of the world. Months later, the Netflix docuseries would arrive and drag the story back into the spotlight all over again. So when Harry and Meghan entered St. Paul's, every face, every seat, every glance became evidence. Every other working royal had followed the official rhythm, even Princess Beatrice and Eugenie riding over with the family group. But Harry and Meghan came separately, visibly, dramatically. Harry fussed with something on Meghan the moment they stepped from the car, while Meghan kept adjusting Meghan's own collar on the walk toward the entrance, once, twice, like the outside appearance had to be perfect before the inside judgment could begin. Then came the seating drama, and this was where the polished image started looking dangerously thin. Harry and Meghan had been placed in the 5th and 6th chairs from the aisle, but according to royal author Tom Bower, they still tried to shift the arrangement, allegedly asking 6 strangers to move down so they could sit where they wanted. 6 people in a cathedral during Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee. The footage showed bodies rearranging in real time, an entire row quietly bending around the comfort of 2 non-working royals. And then, according to the account, an usher shut it down by telling Harry the seating came directly from his grandmother. That was not just a seating instruction, that was a palace message delivered in public without raising its voice. And still, almost immediately, online fan communities tried to turn that awkward entrance into something golden. Suddenly, the claim floating around was that Queen Elizabeth had personally arranged a special procession for Harry and Meghan, as if a couple being placed away from the central royal line had somehow been crowned emotionally by the monarch herself. But that version required everyone to ignore the seats, ignore the shifted strangers, ignore the reported usher, ignore Tom Bower, and ignore the obvious chill in the room. Because if Queen Elizabeth had truly designed the moment as a glowing gift, why did it look so much like Harry and Meghan were being carefully managed instead of celebrated? That is the uncomfortable question nobody in the spin machine wanted to touch. How could Harry and Meghan sit with Oprah, expose private family pain to millions, prepare for Netflix, and then walk into Queen Elizabeth's biggest public tribute expecting warmth like nothing had happened? The contradiction was not quiet. It was standing right there in the nave. And once the cathedral doors closed behind them, the atmosphere did not soften, it tightened. Outside, something worse was waiting. Harry and Meghan skipped the Guildhall lunch afterward. They skipped the Saturday night party at the palace. They skipped the Jubilee pageant on Sunday. 3 major events gone, the same couple who arrived visibly enough to command attention suddenly disappeared from the rest of the celebration. And that disappearance made the earlier entrance feel even more revealing. On the way out of St. Paul's, Zara Tindall barely acknowledged Meghan. Zara Tindall kept the body language angled toward Harry, and even when a small turn happened, the full warmth never arrived. Then came Kate crossing near them, and the contrast was icy enough to feel like its own commentary. Then the crowd spoke. As Harry and Meghan came down the cathedral steps, boos rose beneath scattered cheers, and caught clearly enough that nobody could pretend the sound was imaginary. This was the first real public reaction to Harry and Meghan after leaving royal duties, after Oprah, after the long public battle with the institution. And Meghan's face reset fast. Harry moved through it, the smile returned, but the damage had already escaped. A Daily Mail piece called it a genuinely significant turning point, because for once, the public reaction was not filtered through a team, a friendly interview, or a polished edit. It was raw sound, and it sounded like a verdict. Sydney was supposed to be the reset, the clean escape from royal tension, the proof that whatever happened on the cathedral steps could be blamed on Britain, history, monarchy, old wounds, old loyalties, and old grudges. But then the camera found Meghan again, and this time the setting was not St. Paul's, not Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee, ceremony, not a sacred royal room full of family politics. It was a Warriors rugby game in Australia with Harry and Meghan sitting in the front row like honored guests, waiting for the big screen moment that was supposed to turn into applause. And when their faces appeared on the Jumbotron, the stadium did not erupt. It did not rise. It did not scramble for photos. It did not behave like a crowd thrilled to witness the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. It went mostly quiet, with scattered boos breaking through the silence like little public warnings. And honestly, that kind of silence can be even more brutal than noise, because boos at least mean people are emotionally invested. Silence means the crowd looked up, recognized the moment, and still decided not to care. That was the detail that made the Sydney reaction sting differently. No one could easily dress it up as palace bitterness. No one could say this was just a royalist crowd defending tradition. This was a sports stadium, a casual public space, a completely different audience, and the reaction still carried the same cold message. Earlier that same morning, Meghan had been seen walking along the Sydney beaches with 9 people trailing around the scene, including a man connected to the Soho House Members Club, making the whole thing feel less like a private stroll and more like a production moving through sunlight. Australian outlets had been pushing the idea that the tour was a success, that locals were showing up in droves, that Meghan had landed with warmth. But the stadium tape told another story. Tape is dangerous because tape does not flatter. Tape does not negotiate. Tape just sits there, replaying the moment everyone else wants explained away. Then came the performance after the reaction, and this was where the pattern became almost impossible to ignore. Once Harry and Meghan seemed to realize the stadium was not giving them the response they expected, the public affection switched on fast. The waves appeared. The smiling became bigger. The hug arrived, looking less like a private instinct and more like a rescue image, something clean and friendly that could replace the awkward silence if photographed from the right angle. And that was the genius of the public reset. If the first reaction was bad, create a second image before the first image becomes the whole story. But a wave and a hug did not erase what had already happened. It only raised the question of why the correction looked so immediate. The same visit carried more uncomfortable details. Meghan spent time with a young girl at an Invictus-adjacent event, twirling and smiling in the kind of clip that looked built for a highlight reel. But Nancy Sidley, watching as a former teacher, noticed something colder underneath the pretty surface. It pointing out that Meghan appeared to avoid eye contact in a way that signaled the interaction was finished, even while the girl kept trying to hold the moment. Alone, maybe it could be dismissed. But placed beside the quiet stadium, the beach production, and the growing merchandising complaints, it started looking like one more carefully packaged stop on a larger content route. Even the clothes became part of the controversy. The outfit Meghan wore to a children's cancer hospital reportedly appeared on a shopping platform, and after changing before a veterans event, that outfit reportedly appeared online too. Shane Watson later called the tour "looks stiff, impractical, and aging," which was a savage verdict for a woman trying to turn appearances into influence. And then Los Angeles happened. October 2025, Dodgers versus the Blue Jays, Meghan Markle front row beside Harry at the World Series. Exactly the kind of American celebrity arena where Meghan Markle should have been safest. But when the big screen showed them, the reaction came instantly. And this time it was not just silence with a few boos tucked inside. It was boos loud enough for the broadcast to catch. Prince Harry's face seemed to register it in real time, and Kinsey Schofield called attention to that split second because whatever crossed his expression did not look like the smooth Cathedral recovery. The timing made it even more brutal. Just days earlier, Ranker had reportedly polled 48,000 people and named Meghan the single most disliked celebrity in the United States, with Harry landing third. London had booed. Sydney had gone cold. Los Angeles, their adopted home turf, booed too. Oh my goodness, that the look on Prince Harry's face when it registers that they're being booed. You know, you could tell that really affects him. This is interesting because recently an LA-based crowdsourcing site after that, Meghan's recent UK trip became its own strange clue. Days in the country and not one leaked photo. No doorstep image, no blurry paparazzi frame, nothing. Harry had just lost his privacy case against the publisher of the Daily Mail and called the ruling a complete whitewash outside court, standing visible while cameras rolled. Meghan somehow remained unseen. If she appeared and received warmth, it weakened the security argument. If she appeared and received coldness, the footage lived forever. So the cleanest move was absence. And after St. Paul's, Sydney, and Los Angeles all delivered the same public warning, staying out of frame no longer looked like privacy. It looked like strategy.